Well, it's been 14 years in the business, 7 years here in Newcastle. We've never really had a summer where we could enjoy the Newcastle beaches or any of the Christmas holidays or New Year's holidays or any of the leisure time that we could normally do with our children. So we've had an opportunity to be able to relax and step back a little bit, so to speak, and we've decided to take it on and have a break for a couple of years.
Will you have any involvement in the motordrome whatsoever?
Not directly, no. We'll still be involved in the filming of the videos and so on. That is more of a hobby than anything else. We'll give them a hand this year to make sure that everything runs as it has been, or assist them in any way we can. But apart from that, no.
The new managers of the motordrome will be Central Coast Speedways Proprietary Limited, Mr Barry Lewis and Mr Alan Harris. And as Barry Lewis explains, there will be no major changes to the format of the motordrome.
Well, not in the racing style. It'll still be the same divisions and the same variety. The only change we are really going to make, the major one, is we are running a Friday night meeting, which is a sort of a low key meeting, where it's a sort of a nursery for up and coming riders and drivers, and we think it's most important to foster the sport in the Hunter region, and in that respect we're going to run Friday nights as well. So it opens on the Bathurst weekend, which is the 2nd of October, with a monster show, every division, and it'll be a really top show.
No, it's because we're working between September and January. The 83 funding has come through finally, the first instalment, and this is from the Premier's Department. It's terrific. It's terrific to have it at long last. So we're mounting these 4 shows between September and January. That's why it's short and sharp.
Can we look forward to any changes in presentation of Hunter Valley Theatre productions under your new directorship?
In some ways, yes. Most about 3 of those plays will be here in the Playhouse, but the 4th production will be up at Fort Scratchley. That's the Cocky of Bungaree, and that will be following in a tradition that Arnie Nemi, the previous artistic director, established over the years, and that will be for the family, the kids and the family, in January next year at Fort Scratchley.
I don't want to be cynical, but to be fair, you are in the hot seat now, aren't you, as the new director of the Hunter Valley Theatre Company?
It's a tough one, and the eyes of the country are on us. I mean, this company has gone over the brink, but we've pulled it back, and now we're going to establish really good theatre here in Newcastle, or re-establish good theatre, get the thing rolling again, and keep it here for a long, long time.
Extended to Dr. Goda today, who's considered to be a world expert in his field. Dr. Goda has worked in 5 countries, including India, as technical expert with the United Nations Development Programme. He is also the author of many publications on harbour and coastal engineering. The visiting Japanese authority spent more than an hour touring the port with the harbour master, Mr. Neil Morrison, and a representative of the Institute of Engineers. He was particularly interested in development on Kooragang and dredging operations in the harbour. After his tour, Dr. Goda made this observation.
I found that the port people here has done a very nice job.
The imminent closure of the Child Abuse Unit was the main topic of discussion at last night's annual general meeting of the Child Protection Advisory Group held at the Centrecare building in Hunter Street. The meeting was told that as it is, the unit is providing only limited services because of inadequate staff. After office hours, all crisis calls are transferred to Sydney, and callers may wait up to 10 minutes before they are connected with a counsellor. The chairman of the advisory group, Mr. Bob Adler, says those minutes are precious. He says not only should the child abuse unit remain open, but it should provide an around-the-clock counselling service.
As anyone knows, crises in families don't blow up between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Mondays to Fridays. In fact, if anything, they blow up outside working hours more often than during working hours.
If the centre was closed down, where do you think these people would be able to turn?
Well, I think they'd have to turn back to the two traditional 24 hours a day resources, hospital casualty departments and the police. Now, while in no way denigrating the service that those two groups of people provide, they are not appropriate for meeting the needs of families in the community on an around-the-clock basis.
For more than 30 years, TAA operated out of Williamtown. That situation has changed dramatically over the past 3 years. Other airlines have gained a foot in the door. Newcastle now has a choice booking through Williamtown flights not only to Sydney but north and south. There's TAA working in conjunction with East Coast Airlines, Ansett and Air New South Wales, and East West Airlines, which has started the discounting war against its competitors. Meanwhile, Ansett, which moved in on the Williamtown traffic a year ago, is planning to upgrade its facility. According to a TAA spokesman, the market is now saturated.
Operating 5 airlines in and out of Williamtown, all in the one day, we're all only getting little bites of the apple, and I believe that we will have to look at the growth of passenger travel out of here and look at rationalisation. You can't expect to create new markets if it's not there.
However, Ansett does not agree. A Sydney spokesman, Mr. Paul Donovan, said today that as far as he's concerned, he doesn't believe the market at Williamtown is saturated, and the airline does not want to hear about rationalisation.
Thanks, John. Good morning. Another cool start to the day. The wind's blowing from the west after a short break of onshore winds yesterday afternoon. The swells come up and there are some big waves around most of our city beaches this morning. Wave height this morning is around 1.5 to 1.8 metres at all of the open beaches. The swell direction is straight from the east, and with the offshore winds there are going to be some reasonable quality waves around later today. At the moment, quite the reverse of yesterday. The tide's now just a little bit too low, and most of our city beaches will look a lot better when the tide comes in a little. Also, due to the fact that we had onshore winds yesterday afternoon, conditions are a little bumpy at the moment. We will need a few hours of these westerly winds to straighten things out. If you'd like to go for a swim this morning, take care. All of our city beaches have rips and sweeps and are quite dangerous. A cold front moving east-northeast through the southern Tasman is likely to bring showers onto the New South Wales coast by Friday, but for the moment, the forecast reads morning fog areas and highland frosts, and then a mild, mostly sunny day with light to moderate winds from the west to the southwest at 10 to 20 kilometres per hour. Sea should be slight on a low swell. Newcastle expecting another 19 degrees and 18 degrees for Scone. High tide at 10:35 this morning, 1.5 metres. Low tide at 20 minutes past 4 this afternoon, 0.3 of a metre. And the outlook for Friday, a few showers. Now, it would appear that Newcastle Council are not going to display beach closed due to pollution signs anymore, and that's because most of the reports that are coming through from the water board are 24 hours old. Now, for the people who would like to use the beaches, the general rule is that when the swells from the south and winds from the south, the pollution problem is quite bad. So I have to look out for those things on our own now. There will not be any more signs displayed on our city beaches. Anyway, today, waves around 1.5, occasionally 1.8 metres, still offshore winds. Get them before the wind changes. Have a great day, whatever you're doing. It's back to you, John.
Neville, thanks for talking to us today. Do you do this in shopping centres alone, or is it just...
About 20 weeks of the year, the rest of the time I lecture in schools right throughout the state.
Right. What's the reaction like from children coming and seeing the snakes? And
much better than it would have been 10 years ago when the atmosphere was such that everybody was told to kill snakes. The attitude's changed a lot now and children are accepting that they do need to be preserved.
You're not allowed to kill snakes anymore, is that correct?
You're allowed to kill a venomous snake around a school or a home, some form of dwelling place where it's a threat to human life, otherwise no.
Right. Just for everyone at home's benefit, what kind of snakes do we have here today?
A major part of the major venomous snakes, browns, blacks, tigers, death adders, taipans, a couple of pythons just so that they can see what the non-venomous ones look like, and some lizards.
And we have some spiders, rather.
Yep. Spiders, mainly funnel webs, trapdoors, the commonly seen ones.
And the crocodile that we have over here, what's that?
Crocodile, that one there is an exact replica in fiberglass of one that was shot in North Queensland during the skin trade about 30 years ago. It's just under 18 foot long and it's one of the largest specimens known in Australia.
When you lecture in the schools, do you include how to treat snake bite in the lectures?
Always, because snake bite treatment over the last 6 or 7 years has changed dramatically. Most people aren't aware that you don't use an arterial tourniquet anymore, you don't cut the bite, you don't wash the bite. And these things I feel the children really need to know.
Right. What do the snakes eat, like in captivity, the way you've when you feed them?
A supply of frozen mice and rats, which are gassed at an animal house in Sydney, and it's quite humane, and then they're thawed out well before you're feeding the snakes. Feed the snakes about once a week.
Do the snakes, when you've got them at home and they're not on display, do you keep them in these glass cages? Or?
Some of them, the smaller ones, most of the others, the larger snakes like the taipans and browns go back into larger cages.
Right. Have you ever been bitten?
5 times by venomous snakes.
5
Only once
times. Once badly. What was that by?
It was a brown snake, about the size of the one that we're standing next to, about 1.5 metres in length. But it was a very aggressive bite. It chewed on my wrist and I had to actually tear the snake from the bite. In most cases, up to 90% of cases, no venom's injected by snakes. They bite and they just warn the people, and people panic for no reason.
So they actually only inject venom when they're trying to kill prey?
Voluntarily. It's not automatic with a bite. It's purely voluntary.
Thanks very much for talking to us. This is really interesting. Thanks a lot, Neville.
In what was probably the top clash of the netball championships, New South Wales today clashed with Victoria at National Park. New South Wales managed to finish on top of Victoria, winning the game 35-42. The win was important for New South Wales, which now sits at the top of the table on 8 points, 2 ahead of Victoria and Western Australia. At the #1 sports ground, the Girls Under-16 National Hockey Championships were again underway, and here we see the Queensland team playing the Northern Territory. Queensland finished up winning the match 2-0. New South Wales also had a win today in the hockey when they beat Victoria 3-1. New South Wales also heads the hockey competition point score on 8, 2 ahead of Western Australia, with Queensland and Tasmania on 5 each. The hockey and netball championships continue through until Sunday.
It seems very good for Newcastle. The proposal, as I see it, is an investment in Newcastle by BHP, supported by the government, which should overcome any further or future retrenchments of any kind. Certainly BHP have guaranteed that there will be no enforced retrenchment. I think that's of great comfort to us. Further to that, I think that there is now a challenge to management and to union to further the tremendous progress that's been made in that regard over the last 12 months.
Well, it seems to me that most of the things the board sought have been given. Firstly, we wanted a national steel policy, which we certainly are getting now. Secondly, we wanted it linked to productivity. We saw a lot of sense in more collaboration between the government, the unions and management. Thirdly, we wanted it for a limited term, and this is 4 or 5 years, not the 10 years as was requested. And fourthly, we wanted the thing monitored. And on that basis, I think that this scheme seems to have a lot of good answers in it.
We are now assured of a very solid future in Newcastle. We have announced that Newcastle plant will continue to operate, and we'll be going ahead with the relining of 2 blast furnaces, number 3 blast furnace immediately, and also number 4 blast furnace during 1984.
It was also announced that there would be no more enforced retrenchments, but our workforce in Newcastle is higher than what you said the figure was you wanted.
Yes.
Does that mean that still more people will go?
Yes, let me say that we foreshadowed that we had surplus people in training, and that includes some apprentices and trainees, and we had announced previously that we would complete the training of these young people, but perhaps there wouldn't be employment opportunities for them. I'm afraid that still applies, and I think that our target of 6,250 by the end of the financial year, that's May 1984, is achievable, and we still have negotiations to complete with unions to modify some of our work practices to become more efficient and to increase productivity.
Relations between the unions and the company in Newcastle in particular have been improving day by day over the last 12 months or so. You see further improvement?
I think we'll continue to cooperate with unions. They've been very responsible in a very difficult period, and I see no reason why we shouldn't continue this good cooperation.
It's been a very tough time for Newcastle, but particularly for you as General Manager. How do you feel personally? Do you feel that we've reached the end of a particular stage in the whole thing?
It has been difficult. It's been difficult for a lot more people than me, the management team and all our staff, and employees who've had a very difficult time with the future being so insecure. But we've got some good news now, and we've got something to work towards, and I think that they're all looking forward to that.
The display is the result of a Maths Week poster competition run by the Garden City Shopping Centre. Local school children were invited to design posters or write poems and limericks depicting various aspects of mathematics. Hundreds of entries were submitted, all saying something different. Some looked at maths in industry, others maths in the home and at school, while many just took a humorous view of the whole thing. The prizes in each section were presented to the students last night by the President of the Newcastle Mathematical Association, Mr. Richard Whitbread. First prize in the primary section went to Linda Curry and Alicia Arends, and in the secondary section, a group effort was awarded first prize. The students involved were from Class 10MA at Raymond Terrace High School. It may be Maths Week, but it is also Information Technology Week. To celebrate, the Garden City Centre is holding a computer display designed to fill people in on the many functions of domestic computers. Wednesday night's concert at Christchurch Cathedral will indeed be a special one. Under the direction of guest conductor Ulrich Burstein, the two choirs and the Conservatorium Orchestra will combine their talents to perform Mozart's Requiem. It will be the first time the piece has been performed in Newcastle by local musicians. The Requiem was Mozart's last work. He wrote it during the last months of his life and in fact died before it was completed. Many have acclaimed it as his most powerful work.
now assured of a very solid future in Newcastle. We have announced that Newcastle plant will continue to operate, and we'll be going ahead with the relining of 2 blast furnaces, number 3 blast furnace immediately, and also number 4 blast furnace during 1984.